We are live. Good to see you today, my EOS Podcast friends. Welcome to the EOS Podcast, home of the Mr. Happy Money Proxy. Today we have Shaheen from EOS Blocksmith as well. The EOS World Expo is coming up April 13th and 14th. This is going to be amazing. So we'll talk about the EOS World Expo in San Francisco. Shah, welcome to the show, man, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, thank you so much, Brandon. My name is Shaheen Counts, and I am the head of community and one of the founders of the Blocksmith block producer candidate. It's based out here in the Bay Area. Super excited to be here on the show.
Well, it's fantastic to have you. And you do a lot of work with the other block producers in the Bay Area. You're one of the leading a lot of the meetup groups and things like that. And again, just plugging the EOS World Expo, April 13th and 14th that you guys are part of. And we'll talk all about that a little bit further in the show. But we start off with, what is the most interesting thing going on in EOS right now for you?
Yeah, man, I think by far the most interesting thing going on right now in EOS is the anticipation that's building for June 1st and this what Block 1 has in store, what they've been working on. So I think the community is buzzing with rumors about and guesses about what it's going to be, and Dan has been, Dan Larimer has been super active on Telegram, probably to the dismay of his marketing and legal teams, hinting with all these hints and emojis and stuff. And so I think that's the buzz, man, right now. That's the most exciting thing going on. Although there's so much going on right now, it's incredible the amount of activity and building and work that's being done on EOS. So there's tons of things happening, but that's probably the hot thing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so exciting. I've been looking at the there's the emojis you're talking about that looks like it could be either IBC as one of them, where he's like pointing kind of towards himself, and then there's a B and then an eyeball. So people are thinking it's IBC.
Right.
We're also thinking it might be UBI,
right.
which who knows? It could be either. So I'm excited about that. What do you think? If you picked one that you think is probably going to happen, what do you think we'll see in June?
I mean, I keep coming back to they've been talking about the wallet for a while. Dan was, previewing it to some people way back in September in London, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like no doubt they're going to have some kind of wallet app, and it's probably going to be, I'm imagining, some universal EOS IO chain wallet, because they, I think I don't know if people are chiming into it as much, but Dan, I feel like, is really harping on this theme about how it's not just EOS, right? It's EOS IO, and there's this beauty in the fact that, and this idea of decentralization, and the fact that if a chain goes out of hand as far as the block producers, right, if the governance goes astray, the beauty of it is you can spin up another chain, right? So there is decentralization in that, and so I think that they're focusing on an ecosystem of EOS IO chains, decentralization through multiple chains. So I think that's going to be one of their things, and then I can't help but kind of hope and think that they're going to do some sort of social media dApp, like a Steemit 3.0, that's really gonna, I'm hoping, have UBI, and I think Brandon Bloomer has mentioned that UBI is really going to be kind of the tool for mass adoption, and companies that aren't looking at that or anticipating that as being a means of mass adoption as missing out on what's going to be critical for mass adoption. And so I'm hoping that comes out too.
Yeah, those are all great points. The wallet is, Dan has also talked about some sort of identity solution. He's kind of hinted at that a few times and said that he's got the problem solved. And so it would be cool to see the wallet have whatever that identity solution is, so that we have the possibility for one user, one account type of use cases, because that solves so many problems, especially with think about things like Steemit, where a lot of the incentives couldn't be implemented properly because you could spam accounts.
Yeah, anything that you can kind of civil attack, it just kind of solves problems in virtually every like industry if you have that tied to one user.
Yeah, it would solve the UBI, URI issue as well. If you're going to be giving out, payments to people, you definitely need some sort of identity solution. So
absolutely.
I love that idea of that Dan harps on with the EOS.io with all the different chains interacting. It's like it becomes this natural system, just like you see in nature, where there's a lot of competing chains or a lot of competing entities, and then the ones that the survival of the fittest type of system that is very resilient, not only resilient and robust, but also improves as things break. As things kind of break and the weaker parts fall off, it improves, and that's like a really cool way to think of a blockchain ecosystem.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like a free market of blockchains, right? And the ones with better governance or better set of rules, if we're imagining that these are all opt-in, then that's going to be the winner, right? And so it does create this competition and this, desire to be a chain that people want to be involved with.
Mm-hmm. It's that same. He talks about it with governments as well. As imagine if governments were something that people were opting into, and that the government was treating its people kind of like users, like where government needs to attract you to be a part of their system, and it's all opt in, opt out, and adds this layer of competition that is a really cool big picture thought. So that's something cool, since they're meeting with obviously the U.S. government's not going to turn into a blockchain overnight, but it's cool to see see them meeting with the government. I wonder where they might use that tool.
Yeah, and that's also some really interesting stuff. Is Block One working with governmental agencies to kind of create these kind of hybrid public-private blockchain systems? Are they working with some large corporations? There's rumors about them working with some large corporations too. We don't know, and we'll hopefully kind of get some glimpses into this, come June, July.
Yeah, well, that was some good hard speculation there. That's always fun to just go off into. But we only have to wait about 8 weeks now, so
crazy.
So we'll have answers soon enough.
Yeah, man.
Can't wait. So a thing that isn't speculation is about 2 weeks from now, we have people coming from all over the world to San Francisco for the EOS World Expo. What is it? Who's a part of it? And tell us about it.
Yeah, man. So this was kind of an idea that I came up with, a couple months ago, and it was that, like we were talking about earlier, so much is going on in the EOS ecosphere, and I just, it just seemed like every week I was like, oh man, I got to try that app. Oh, dude, I need someone to, I need to learn what they're doing. Oh, I got to read up about what this project is. I just felt like I was getting further and further behind, and I was like, man, we need some kind of event where you can just go and meet people that are doing these projects and talk to the people directly, get them to show you hands-on, because I was like, people are building dApps that you can use and play with, right? I think one of the examples that kept popping in for me was Infiniverse. I'd never played with it, but I knew about it for over a month, and I was like, man, it'd be great if someone could just show me how to use it, and how to purchase land and how you build on it and how things work, but there was just so many examples of that. And I was like, we need an event where it's just kind of an activities fair, and you just go around from table booth to booth, and people tell you about what they're building. If you've never played with it before, how it works, you can network with them, you can play with it, hands-on demos. I was like, we need an event that's like that. And I was like, if I want to see this, why don't we do it here? We're in the Bay Area. This is an awesome place. And so I called up, we've got some great people here in the Bay Area that are super EOS, warriors like yourself, like June, who's on EOS SF, Ramon from Investing with a Difference, Justin from Infinity Block. So I called up June, I called up Justin, and June just took the ball with it and started running. He started feeling it, right away as I pitched it to him. And him and Justin have been invaluable in kind of helping to make this become a reality.
Yeah. You mentioned the ecosystem. Justin from Infinity Block, which is a block producer, the Investing with a Difference, Ramon, who did the Scaling Blockchain event, EOS Silicon Valley, Bo with EOS Silicon Valley, June Dam with EOS San Francisco. It's like San Francisco is a killer spot for EOS. We've been running that DAP meetup as well. That's been awesome. You're a big part of that. The meetup for where people are demoing dApps. It's such a killer spot, to be for EOS. So who do you have? Who have you kind of gotten in contact with, and what's the guest list look like for the EOS World Expo?
Yeah. So I think it's kind of like it's been fun recruiting groups and people to come, because I think people aren't quite used to, at least at first, the format. Everyone's like, oh, like, can we have a speaking spot, or what are the presentations like? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is literally, you just come and like show people what you're building. Bring some computers, bring some phones, and demo your like products, or tell us what you're working on. And so that has been a fun kind of pitch to sell people. But yeah, let's see. Most recently, so the big ones we're really excited about. Mythical Games is coming. They're going to talk about, there's a lot of hype about them for the Blankos game, which they just presented at South by Southwest. They're going to be talking about the D-Goods standard that they've been working on with actually a lot of different groups within the EOS ecosphere. It's a NFT, non-fungible token kind of standard that they're trying to create on EOS. EOS Links is coming, and they're going to be talking about the chain that they're launching, and about their wallet, obviously, as well. Dracos Keep, which is this really cool dApp that's going to be premiering on Telos, and you can kind of purchase dragon eggs and kind of develop these dragons at their lifetime and kind of level them up, and it seems really cool. They're going to be giving away some dragon eggs at the event, so that's really exciting. Chintai is coming. Ryan from EOS 42 and Andrew, I believe his last name is Coates. They're coming, and they're going to talk about the checks token and what they're doing as far as expanding Chintai services to a lot of different EOS IO chains, and I think that's going to be super impactful as far as like connecting these EOS IO blockchains together through rentals and tokens. So there's a lot of groups coming. I'm super excited. I mean, that's just a few off the top of my head right now, but there's some really great ones coming, and I'm excited to see and kind of play with stuff.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about the checks token and how that might kind of encourage other chains? And
yeah, so I mean, it's a good question, and I should know more about what they're doing. But I think the short of it is, so the idea is they're going to create a rental market on not just EOS, which they have right now, but a resource rental market on Telos, on Boz, on Meet One, on these other EOS IO chains. And don't quote me on which ones they are. I know they're doing it on multiple chains. I'm not exactly sure which ones. But long story short is they are creating a token that is going to be able to be exchangeable between these EOS IO chains. And so essentially it's kind of, I think the whole ecosystem is creating ways to connect these different EOS IO chains, because they are kind of part of this larger EOS IO family. And because of the awesomeness of these groups doing airdrops on the mainnet and stuff, anyone who's kind of in the mainnet ecosystem is essentially getting value on other chains. And we need more vectors through which we can kind of translate that value between one chain and the other. And this is just going to be one way to do that, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, another tool that we can seamlessly move in between blockchains. That is cool. That's really cool. There is, I think that crypto fees, who is that? Are coming to, that's cool. They're coming to April 13th to 14th. Is there some sort of after party at the EOS World Expo? Is that something you guys are part of?
Yeah. So I'm not the details guy on the after party, but so crypto fees is one of the most interesting characters, or influencers in all of the EOS space. I think I first came across him, when you're kind of looking at who are the good YouTube content people, and obviously you come across the Happy Money Man, and there's Colin Talks Crypto, and a lot of these other people that are good about giving you information and stuff like that. And Crypto Fees, I found him. He was doing like some late night, live podcasts or live YouTube videos, and this guy has like this kind of swag to him, and he's vaping or smoking something while he's kind of just going through the markets and talking about stuff. And then the best part was all of a sudden he's like, all right, man, I'm gonna hit you with this my latest song, and then he just like hits play, and he has these dope EOS rhymes, like dope, and I was like, I found myself like singing the songs later in bed, and my girlfriend was like, what are you singing? I was like, oh, this dude is making these awesome EOS rhymes, man. And they're so just kind of dope that I was like, catchy singing them. And so, he heard about the EOS Expo because he's very, into what's going on in the EOS community. And he really expressed interest in coming but needed some help funding it. And so, thankfully, like the organizers like Blocksmith and Infinity Block and EOS SF kind of all chipped in a little bit and I think his gang like podcast or YouTube community chipped in a little bit too, and so he's coming, he's going to perform, and I think that's going to be tight.
That's rad. That'll be really fun, man. That'll be really fun. There's another guy who's in San Francisco who was big in Bitcoin, Coin Daddy. Do you remember him?
No.
Yeah, man, I should try to get a hold of Coin Daddy. He's in San Francisco too. He was the one who was in the New York Times when Bitcoin, that article, everyone's getting hilariously rich and you're not. The New York Times article when Bitcoin was like going crazy. And so anyway, he's a crypto rapper too from San Francisco. So
nice.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a couple shows going on.
Yeah.
So April 13th and 14th, that's gonna be really fun, man. I can't wait. And I love the interaction. What gave you the idea to do interactive like that as opposed to our standard conference that we usually see?
I mean, again, it was like I wanted to play with this stuff rather than just have people kind of lecture to me about it, because I think up until now, crypto conferences have been a lot about like hype and like the future, right? This is what we're working on. This is what we're gonna do, But I was just kind of felt more and more realizing that while other blockchains are talking about what they're gonna do eventually, once layer 2 develops, or once this happens, or once our mainnet goes live, whatever, EOS, people are building and doing stuff. We have a backbone that works, right? A blockchain that is fast enough right now that people can build on. And I was like, I want to just see what people are building, play with it, right? Even though not everybody has a working product right now, but a lot of people do have apps out right now. And I was like, let's get these out. Let's showcase these. I mean, for me, it's kind of funny, like, so, right? I mean, EOS started, like most blockchains, with a lot of gambling dApps because it's an easy thing. Just like low-hanging fruit, right? It's easy. People jump on it because it's fun, right? Gambling is exciting, and there's a purpose to it, right? Like if you put gambling on the blockchain, you're getting around a lot of these regulations and legislation, right? Like, so it serves a function. But I'm not a huge gambler, so I wasn't like really, as much as I was like promoting the EOS blockchain and I have belief in it, I wasn't like really actively playing a lot of blockchain, using a lot of blockchain dApps, right? I wasn't a big dApp user. But I'm a big poker player. So some people know this about me. I'm a physician, I'm a surgeon, and I do that as my day job. And then EOS blockchain stuff is like my passion, my alter ego side. And in medical school, I played, this sounds really weird, right? I played a lot of poker. Me and my friends got into poker. It was with the hype. And so I've always just been a big poker fan. And so when Poker Kings came out, this was like maybe end of January, so like 2 months ago. It was the first peer-to-peer poker playing game, like Texas Hold'em game, and I was like, I had been waiting for that to come out. I started playing it, and I was playing it like every day I was playing a little bit. It was so much fun to interact with all these people in the EOS community, like through poker. And I was showing everybody, like everybody I talked to in the EOS community, was like, you got to play this fast enough for you to use. You know, this is how it's tethered to the blockchain. We did an event together, Brandon, you remember, where we kind of were demoing some different dApps here in the Bay Area at Starfish Mission, and I was telling people about PokerStars. And then I was like, you know what? I was so surprised so many people had not even tried it that were poker players. And I think that was like my impetus. I was like, you know, it's not just me that has not been able to try a lot of these dApps. A lot of people haven't. And I was like, we got to do an event where people just come and just play with stuff and show each other how to play these dApps, how to use these dApps, what they're about, and just get hands-on stuff. And that's kind of how this evolved. And it actually made it easier to plan this too, when you don't have to plan like a speaker lineup and, you know, like, and do all the stuff that comes with organizing the event. You're just like, hey, come, and we just organize the booth and the setup, and you just come and do your thing and kind of, you know, tell the world about what you're building or what you're doing. So.
Yeah, and thinking of conferences, I've been to so many crypto conferences, as you probably have also, and it is a lot of times I'm not listening to the speakers unless it's like Nick Szabo or Andreas Antonopoulos or, you know, someone. It's like the information's already out there. You know, yeah. you can go on YouTube and hear great talks, and you can research yourself. So it's like sitting and listening to someone give a speech. I would always just hang out and talk to people around the conference and barely even listen to any of the speeches. So, or the talks. So yeah, I think it's a killer idea. Where can people get tickets for April 13th to 14th if they want to? So the website?
Yeah. Our website is eosworldexpo.com, and it's super easy to get tickets through there, through Eventbrite. They're really cheap. We wanted to, really the goal of this event was to make an event where teams can come and present their stuff for very cheap, and where people can come and play with stuff for very cheap. So we were like, screw that, you know, whole like crypto conferences super charging people. I think the early bird tickets were $15 for attendees, and now it's like up to like $29 or something. So super affordable. You can come for 2 hours, you can come for the whole day, you know, however long it takes you to meet everybody there, network with everybody, and play with all the dApps that you are curious about.
Rad. Let's talk a little bit about Blocksmith, because your block producer's up to a lot of different projects. So what's the story behind Blocksmith, and what are you guys up to?
Yeah, man. So we are one of the earlier block producers to kind of announce our candidacy. We've been working on the EOS mainnet since prior to launch. We were really active in kind of helping out with the pre-launch preparation stuff, and a lot of the teams that have been around since the beginning. Most recently we've been doing a lot of stuff. We've been trying to use our key location. You know this probably better than anyone, Brandon, but we've been trying to use, we feel like we are uniquely poised in, you know, the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, where so much is happening in the crypto space. And we're trying to leverage that to really have an effect about promoting EOS in general, but also to the rest of the crypto community and blockchain community. Just kind of help promote this amazing blockchain that we have and what's going on it. Most recently, we've been doing a lot as far as physical activities, and kind of the EOS Expo is one of two big events that we've done, like kind of regional events. The other big regional event we did was the Scaling Blockchain Conference. So we worked with Ramon closely Ramon from Investing in Difference to get that up and going, and that was a really fun, successful event that followed immediately after the San Francisco Hackathon. And then we've also been working on a developer series, because that's like one of the natural resources we have in this Bay Area, right? It's just a ton of developers, not necessarily blockchain developers, but just, you know, software developers in general. And they're kind of like, you know, they're hearing about blockchain, you know, they're getting curious, the ones that aren't into blockchain right now. And so this is kind of a ripe time to catch them, you know, as they kind of start thinking, man, should I start developing some stuff in a decentralized platform? What does that mean even? So we've been doing a developer series, again, with that one in conjunction with Ramon from Investing with the Difference as well. And we've had 3 events so far. We did one back in October preceding the Scaling Blockchain Conference. And then we did another one in January where we had Alex from EOS Canada, Alexander, come out and do a good presentation on getting started on EOS. And then we had Rose from EOS Studios come and kind of give a talk about EOS Studio and how that can help you develop on EOS. And then most recently, we did one on February 9th at a place called Blockchain University that's in Fremont, California, so a little bit south of San Francisco. We did that in conjunction with the Google Developers Group out there. And we had, I want to say, about 100 people or so come out, which was a really awesome event. And we had a ton of block producers came to support it too. So Shios came up from LA. We had Infinity Block. Justin was there. Hugo from Silicon Valley came. Rhett from EOS Amsterdam was there. And obviously Blocksmith was there too. So, but that was a huge event. I mean, that's like one of the big things that we're like kind of super proud of. We had 100 people at this event that were mostly developers. I'd say about 75% were like Bay Area developers, a lot of whom had never built anything on blockchain before. Some had some Ethereum experience, some other blockchain experience, but some didn't have any. And we're kind of just learning about what it means to build a decentralized app and how blockchain works and how EOS.io is one of the leading softwares as far as or blockchains as far as to build on. So
it's killer. How was that? You mentioned Google. That was tied in with Google somehow, you said?
Yeah, Google has these Google developer groups. So they kind of are trying to grow groups of developers in different areas. And so the Fremont area has like a big Google developers group. I think it has several hundred people that are on their mailing list. And whenever there's like a developer oriented event, they kind of help promote it, or you can team up with them. And so they sponsored like some food. I think they sponsored like pizza and stuff at our event, but it was really kind of hooking in with them, gave us kind of like a bigger audience. So that was a big deal. And we're trying to leverage that connection as well to maybe do a hackathon event sometime in the next few months too. Right now we got our hands full with the EOS Expo event, but that's kind of next on the agenda. So
that's killer. Yeah. That's a lot of community building that you're doing. You've got the events, and then you've also are part of the EOS meetup. We've been having the DApp, where we call it the DApp showcase in San Francisco at Starfish. And that's been fun. You've been part of that too. So yeah, you guys are doing a lot of community building. Yeah,
we're trying to. We have our team is a little bit distributed. We have some of our team members in Oklahoma, and one of my partners is in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. And so we are trying to hit all of those locations where we're located. So in Oklahoma, one of my devs, his name is Caleb Powers, and he's super awesome, but he is a college student and has a bunch of college buddies. And we were like, we've been wanting to work with that generation, right? The college generation. Mm-hmm. Because they're the ones that are really going to take the ball and run with like blockchain. And so Caleb wanted to host a hackathon, on his college campus that was EOS focused and like gaming focused, because he's a big gamer. And so we held an EOS hackathon, not to the scale that like Block One has done hackathons, but we had a small EOS hackathon in Oklahoma that had maybe like, I want to say like 10 to 15 people participate max, but we were introducing all these college kids to building gaming on the EOS blockchain, and it was highly successful. There's actually one gaming DApp that's come out of that. They're still building it, but it's a kind of like a multi-gaming platform that's being built on EOS, so that came out of the hackathon there. So that was like one of the fun events that we've done. That's not in the Bay Area. And then Rodrigo, who's our team member in Hong Kong, is working right now on planning. It's funny that that Block One is partially headquartered in Hong Kong and has offices there, but there's not a lot of like physical EOS meetups in Hong Kong. So Blocksmith's been like trying to rectify that situation. So we're gonna hold a developer meetup in Hong Kong in the next month or so. Rodrigo's going to spear that up, and we're working with Phil from EOS Studio there. So that'll be pretty cool too. So we're trying to do our part, as far as like spreading the gospel and building community.
Yeah, and the meetups take a long time. Just meetups and not to mention events take a long time to organize and plan. I mean, that's a ton of work that goes into it. And that's actually one of the reasons that my proxy, I vote for not only block producers that are basically for transparency, empowering the community and building community, because I know how much time goes into just the physical boots on the ground, putting events together, bringing people together, educating people. That's a big part of EOS. And so it's cool to have block producers out there that are doing a lot of that work. That's something I vote for sure.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because, people try to find or place value on block producers, right? When you're voting, everybody's got to do that. And I think that there's a lot of different ways that block producers can contribute to the ecosystem. Some are building incredible tools that we all use, I love the EOS voter tool that Greymass has built, or the Hyperion, history solution that EOS Brazil or EOS Radio just came out with, we submitted a history solution to. They kind of beat us out on the bounty thing. I think their solution is incredible, and that's the direction I think the community is going to move in. Others contribute by making incredible like video content and educational content, like EOS San Francisco and the videos that you guys are producing, the podcast, the interviews that you guys are doing. Cypher Glass does great videos too. We did a lot of videos back in the day, not as much more recently. And then others are doing kind of, live events and kind of building community. EOS New York had a really cool event where they had Rob from NuGet, and they had SBK Crypto come out. And so there's just different ways that we can all kind of contribute to the community. And I think it's important to hold block producers accountable as far as like, what are you doing with your time? What are you doing with the rewards that you're making? And there's different ways that we can kind of judge that value. But I think it's great to have that diversity. Some block producers are better at other things, and they don't have to do the same thing. So.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things about having what I think about 80 paid positions for block producers is that a lot of there's a big difference in what all the block producers are adding, and it is cool to see that. So cool. What else is Blocksmith up to more recently?
Yeah, so I kind of hinted at one thing. We've been working on a history API solution, because the history API and kind of the bloatedness of the history on our blockchain, because it has so many blocks, has been an issue in the community. And so we had an idea for how to solve that problem in actually a distributed way, rather than block producers individually having to have the infrastructure and pay for the infrastructure to house the entire history. We're like, this is a decentralized blockchain, right? Why don't we make a decentralized history solution, right? Where different block producers kind of band together and house different parts of the history, and then they kind of come together when people ping, the API to kind of get that information. And there's other groups that have been working on similar solutions. I think Attic Lab is working on a Cassandra-based one, but we came up with a solution that uses a piece of software called React that helps organize like clusters to do kind of a clustered database thing to create a distributed history API. And we needed a little bit of help with it as far as like the manpower, because we're doing a lot of other things too. And so we grabbed Rodrigo from EOS Detroit and kind of like recruited them to help us, build out this, propose this solution, kind of design this solution. And so they helped us. And so we kind of proposed we've been working on that a lot for the last few weeks, came up with a really cool proposal, submitted that to the bounty group. And then, and we were really proud of it, and we may still build it out, but EOS Rio came out with their Hyperion solution, which looks really incredible. So I kind of imagine that the community is going to move in that direction, but that's kind of one of the things we've been working on.
Yeah, that's killer. What's the Hyperion solution? Is it a decentralized solution as well, or what's that?
It's not a decentralized solution, but and I'm not the technical guy on our team, so I don't want to mangle this. But the long story short is that they figured out a way to through software kind of get rid of a lot of the unnecessary information, kind of like the filler information, and just use Hyperion to kind of gather the pertinent information and store the pertinent history information, and that reduced the amount of data that any given a block producer that's running Hyperion or that solution has to store by like 85%, which is huge. And then I think I just read recently, like maybe just the day or two ago, that Syed had actually and EOS Cafe had donated some of their knowledge or kind of data about what else is extraneous information, and that has even compressed. I think they're incorporating that into Hyperion, and that compressed the data even more. So it's like 90% less data as far as needed to be stored to have a comprehensive history solution. So I think it's going to kind of solve things for quite a bit of time moving forward.
That's killer. It's cool to see how quickly the history node and the history API, the full history API, developed in the community. I remember it was maybe just 3 months ago or so that I did a podcast with Gray Mass. And Gray Mass kind of put out there, they said, we're one of like 3 block producers that's running a full history API, and more people need to be doing this, and we need to find some solutions. And then you saw the community just jump into action and start. Everyone's working on doing a full history node. People are working on these solutions. EOS 42 or maybe Shintai came out with the bounty for a solution. So it's killer to see how quickly all the developers work together in the space to solve these problems. It's really, really rad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think people keep saying how active and eager the EOS community is. And I love to hear that, especially from groups like Effect.ai or, people that kind of transport their DApp from another platform, and kind of comment about how welcoming and how active and engaged the EOS community is. I love to see and hear about that. But yeah, and then there's stuff like Hyperion, for example. My understanding is that's actually a tool that EOS Rio has been working on for months and months, that collects data in different ways, and then they just kind of adapted it to create this history API solution. But I think it actually can be used in a lot of different ways to kind of query the blockchain. And so people are building these, more tools that are kind of flexible and can be used and applied in a variety of different ways too, which is exciting. Yeah.
So what do you see kind of in the future of Blocksmith? Where do you have anything on the roadmap, or is the plan to build community, do the hackathons, continue doing events? Is that kind of your roadmap?
Yeah, so obviously we want to contribute in whatever ways we can, and I think we've kind of shown that we're particularly good at kind of doing physical events and getting and because we're in the Bay Area, right, as opposed to block producers that are not in a very tech or crypto heavy area. I think that's kind of like our calling and one of the needs, and that's why it's great to have groups like EOS SF that you're part of, and Rahman from Investing with a Difference, and EOS Silicon Valley, like you mentioned earlier. It's great to have several groups because these events take a lot of, like you said, effort and time to design, and so it's great to be able to collaborate with you guys and kind of push these initiatives forward. We are working on some other stuff too. We are kind of looking at the DSP provider space and seeing if we can kind of provide a useful service as far as that goes. And so that's kind of one of the things we're working on, especially. I think that there's a big future in the DApp layer, the liquid DApp layer, as far as kind of expanding the amount of resources available and creating cheaper resources for DApp developers. And so we're trying to see if we can support that in useful ways. And then, one of the big things that, Blocksmith has always been from the beginning an education-focused block producer. And so outside of kind of just physical events in the Bay Area and in Hong Kong, I think we want to do more videos, but also I really want to get involved with college and university blockchain groups. I was a part of blockchain at Berkeley previously for a semester, and it's funny, and you probably know this, we talk about this sometimes, but like the Bay Area is in some ways like what I call tiger country. It's like very Ethereum heavy, and unfortunately there's still a lot of tribalism, in blockchain, even though we're all kind of like moving towards this decentralized future. There's some people that are just not as open to kind of learning or hearing about other blockchains if they don't do things a way that they, theoretically think they should be done. And so we're really going to be trying to break into that, especially as June 1st comes and people start to realize, I think people are realizing that EOS is doing stuff. There's dApps that are happening. I mean, we're moving the space forward, and you can only ignore that for so long, right? Before you have to start kind of getting your eyes open and realizing, okay, EOS is here to stay, and they're really, a leader in this decentralized future. And so, we're going to really try to use that momentum to kind of grow the EOS community in this area, especially as far as colleges and universities go.
Yeah, there is a lot of crypto tribalism still. Everyone talks about that. What do you think? What are your other favorite coins outside of EOS? Like what projects do you think kind of stand a chance, or are other top projects for you?
Yeah. I was like a big Bitcoin maximalist until really discovered the value of EOS and what it offered, because I just think it's going to be hard to replace that as a store of value. I think it's always going to have a role as a store of value. I am a huge fan of Stellar. I lived in right next to Berkeley for a while, and so we had some great like Berkeley Bitcoin meetup groups. And Stellar came out and talked about their project, and I mean, I think they are really, when we talk about, us blockchain zealots like to talk about like banking the unbanked, and like really creating opportunities for the masses, like especially in developing countries and stuff. I think Stellar is going to lead the way in that. And as far as like cross-border, payments and bank interconnectivity, I think they're going to do that. I'm a fan of Zilliqa as well. I think Zilliqa is one of the leaders in sharding technology, right? And like, obviously, I think everyone that's in the blockchain space has to appreciate the value of Ethereum and what they did as far as moving the space forward in terms of smart contracts and stuff. But they're stuck in this scaling, dilemma, and they're trying to retro or back engineer solutions for a technology that was, revolutionary when it came out, but now is, the space moves so fast, right? It's kind of outdated, and they're trying to create backfit solutions, which potentially could work, but they're not there yet. And Zilliqa is one of those projects who took, what Ethereum had kind of, built and their ideas, and basically implemented a sharding technique that looks like it's going to work as far as being a quite decentralized blockchain with transaction speeds that are useful, right? Like practical. And so they launched their mainnet like a month and a half ago, and it's been kind of in like this test mode, or like kind of a restricted mode, where you can't do much with it. But I think they're opening it up sometime in the next couple of weeks, and they've got some dApps already that are kind of like lined up to start running on it. And I'm really curious to see how that starts to play out, and if their sharding technology can reach kind of the speeds that they think theoretically it will, and has done on testnets. So, and those are some of the ones I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. It's crazy because just in EOS, there's so much going on. Like you're saying, it's hard to keep track of, and then there's all these other projects. It's just it's not really even possible to know enough about everything. It's just So cool. In the same way that the EOS having multiple blockchains, be able to move between them, and there's plenty of room for all the blockchains. I think of this the same in the greater crypto ecosystem where Zilliqa and Stellar Lumens, EOS and ETH and Bitcoin, they can all survive and thrive and grow to kind of scale together. I mean, it's not a zero sum game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing other groups that are like focusing on this inter blockchain connectivity because people realize that's a big deal. Cosmos, just launched the Cosmos blockchain, and that looks really exciting too. I'm keeping a loose eye on that because some of the people that I was close with at blockchain at Berkeley are working on that project. But yeah, I think we're going to see more and more solutions as far as like inter blockchain connectivity, and we'll see which ones kind of pan out to be the most useful and practical and used. But it's exciting to have a lot of different venues to reach, a lot of different paths to reach the same goal.
Mm-hmm. I go to there's a Santa Cruz Bitcoin meetup, which they've been doing in Santa Cruz since like maybe 2013. It's been like a long-standing Bitcoin meetup.
Yeah.
And I go to it, and it's, it's slow right now. There's not that many people there, but there's these, old Bitcoiners there that have loved Bitcoin for a long time. And I kind of brought up this idea of blockchains communicating and, seamless coins, being able to switch between blockchains, inter-blockchain communication, and there being room for, all these blockchains with special use cases to survive. Let's, imagine thousands of blockchains all kind of competing and having different niches. And these guys were like, no, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. They shot it down. There's like a whole group of people shot it down so hard, and like, no, Bitcoin's going to solve all the problems. It's like, man, people are still really, really stuck in that paradigm, aren't they? So anyway, I love the idea of there's so much going on. There's so much. It's impossible to know all of it. So I'm always really open to all these different solutions blockchains have. So
yeah, it's funny. Like there's so many examples in the world of like how systems, evolve separately and coexist to do different functions. I mean, just human languages, right? Like, people have always thought as the world gets smaller, we're going to have like one universal language. And, English is becoming kind of universal, but I mean, there's a role and need for these different languages. There is different currencies, and maybe that'll change in the future, but still for now, we've all had these different currencies and they have their own role and they're interchangeable. And there's just tons of examples of in the world and in nature of like different things that have similar functions, but maybe like play a niche role or, coexist. And I think there's tons of room for them. Yeah. Me and my little group of, blockchain buddies have always imagined a future where there's going to be, maybe not like, 1,000 different projects, but there's going to be a few that are like, universally accepted, and, you can pay, for a coffee with one of several different, cryptocurrencies, that are accepted and easily interchangeable, like that. Right. And so maybe in the little region that that you roll in, like this one currency or project is bigger, but another one is, so.
Well, it's a really cool, interesting time to be kind of on the forefront of and thinking about all this stuff. I just read that book, Life After Google. And it's a guy who wrote this other book called Life After Television. But anyway, he's basically analyzing kind of the role of these big centralized companies like Google and Amazon, and how that looks moving forward as we start to distribute information, and that kind of becomes possibly a hindrance to them, because they've they're not going to be able to be part of this possibly new decentralized sharded community that's all over the world. It's some interesting, really cool, interesting time for governance and big companies and the internet and future of privacy. I mean, it's just, this is an interesting time to be thinking about all this.
It is. It's fascinating. And it's one of those things where like, it's one of those weird directions that the world of technology has taken that is absolutely necessary, but was not anticipated, right? Like when you think about, books and movies that talked about like the future, right? Like there's flying cars and there's like, things like internet where you can access like information anywhere, right? But I think one of the problems that people didn't anticipate was centralization of information and data and all these things. And that's like, it's such an integral thing. And one of those things that people really hadn't been able to visualize until just recently, right? Like that is an absolutely necessary part of like technology and, human evolution to some degree as we move forward with our technological advances. So,
yeah, it feels, it's like one of these, it's almost like we didn't realize that we owned our information or that our information was even a thing, that like, we didn't think of it as a physical item until just recently started saying, oh, like I have this information. I add all this kind of value into this universe, and we couldn't conceptualize it yet. It's not like when you go into your yard and you pick an apple and you're like, oh, that's my apple tree. This is my yard. It's like,
right.
It was this abstract thing. And now people are starting to shift like, oh, even though it's this abstract thing, I still have property here. I still have things that are mine that belong to me. It's like, Amazon's not in my yard picking my apples and then reselling them at the market.
Right.
Yeah. So it is abstract, but there's this shift now where people are going to look back and be like, oh, that's funny that we never thought of this before.
Oh yeah. Our kids are going to be like, what do you mean you didn't own your data? What I mean? Like, what are you talking about? You just posted stuff and like, it was Facebook's property. What?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
We're like, we didn't know any better.
Yeah, exactly. It was the Wild West. It's wonderful.
Right.
Cool, man. Well, so as we've gone through this, we talked a lot about all the community building that you're doing at Blocksmith and also the tech work that your team's doing. And we talked about the April 13th and 14th for the EOS World Expo. Have we kind of glossed over anything or anything you want to go back and add a little bit to?
No, I think that's we've talked about all the things that I wanted to highlight. If you are near the Bay Area, you can get out here. Please go buy tickets. You're going to have an awesome time at the EOS Expo event. There's going to be so many people represented, and we're still 2 weeks away from the event, and we're getting pinged on Telegram and calls about people wanting to like participate still. So it's growing. It's going to be pretty lit. So come out to that, and then feel free to visit if you're curious about Blocksmith. Want to know more about us, visit our website, eosblocksmith.io. We have on our website like the status of all of our nodes at any given time, because we're trying to roll with transparency. That's been a big theme for us from the beginning. And so you can check out what our nodes are doing, what we're running, which chains we're running nodes on. And we also have a dashboard tool that I didn't talk about much, but that's still up and running. Super useful to see kind of block producer rankings, EOS news, EOS prices, kind of everything all in one place. And that's a link to off our website too. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Brandon. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about Blocksmith and the expo that's coming up soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I invited you on the show because in the Bay Area, I see all the events you're doing and everything that you're up to. So I wanted to make sure people know about Blocksmith, because it's not easy to, you're putting a ton of time in. Everything that you're doing takes a ton of time and work. So thank you for that. Sure. The EOS Podcast, my EOS Podcast friends, I have a proxy, Mr. Happy Money proxy. I vote for block producers that are transparent, empowering the community and building community. EOS Blocksmith is an example of a block producer I vote for. And I talk to these people for, over an hour. I get to know them, make sure they're quality characters. Maybe they're even doctors or MDs that are, doing surgery during the day and then helping the EOS blockchain at night. It's like a superhero, you never know. You got to do these podcasts to learn about people. And then, so Mr. Happy Money Proxy, if you need somewhere to vote. And that's it. The EOS Podcast. Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in.
The money is not the prime asset in life. Time is, and your time is.